Hello everyone and welcome back to the Prim Stitch Along. My name is Jennifer Long, Machine Embroidery Manager at Riley Blake Designs, and we have been stitching together Lori Holt of Bee in My Bonnet, her Prim Stitch Along. It has been so much fun. We have done all kinds of picture blocks in the hoop. We've learned some different techniques, fills, emboss stitches. We've done some applique, and just really had a lot of fun with different fabrics, fussy cutting, and also thread work. And today is a block like no other. We are actually using our embroidery machine to sew exactly for us. These blocks, there are 12 in total, I believe, 4, 8, that 12 in total of the steps block, starting at hoop 17 with Prim steps 8, which is what we're going to do today. They are all assembled the same, but have different scrappy fabrics in them. And so feel free to play and have fun, but you are going to get exact, precise step outs for your steps with the machine embroidery stitch and flip method. So I'm going to walk you all through that today. As you can see here, when you go through the pattern, you actually don't need a specific thread color. There is no thread changing here. This is all about the fabric. This is all about the fabric in the borders around the quilt. And so I encourage you to choose a neutral color of thread on the top and bottom. I, however, am going to use a teal on the top just so that you can see it well enough. If I was going to use a white, it would really show up here very well. So I'm going to use a teal so that you can see just for teaching purposes, but please use a neutral thread top and bottom for this entire hoop and the next several hoops that you'll be working on. Every hoop, like I said, all the step hoops are all done the same. So I'll teach you the method here, and then you can keep working through all of them in this way. Without further ado, let's begin. A couple things first. Make sure you are stitching the correct size. We have those 3 sizes: wall, lap, and throw again: 6 by 10, 8 by 12, and 9 by 14. So make sure you have the correct size loaded up on your machine. And I like to have everything ready to go. So I have all of my fabrics cut and ready. Here is my label for this block, and these will be very, very important because they all look similar. And so you'll want to know which one is A, and B and C for the assembly for the setting instructions. So do make sure you have your block labels. If you can, pre-cut all of your pieces. It's going to make it fun and easy. And if you want to see how we pre-cut our pieces, go back to the first video in this series where we're getting ready for the Prim, and we talk all about that. All right, if you have any questions or you want more information on this stitch and flip method that we are going to be teaching here today, please go to the front couple of pages of your PDF. And in there, we show this legend that's at the top corner, but we show a great description of every single step. So if you want to go and read all of the words in there, you're more than welcome to, but I will walk you through it and hold your hand. So let's have a lot of fun, and let's stitch out the very first steps block, Prim steps 8 in the Prim stitch along. All right, I have all of my fabrics prepared. The first thing we do is not a step on our machine, it is a hoop step, and it just says to hoop 1 layer of no-show mesh cutaway stabilizer so that all 4 sides of the stabilizer are secured in the hoop. So no mesh cutaway stabilizer is really great for this because it is so lightweight that you don't actually have to remove it from your blocks. You don't have to worry about stretching your fabrics afterwards, trying to tear it away. It is just ready to go, and it's going to be assembled in your quilt once it's trimmed. It's really, really lightweight, but it doesn't stretch. So it really just holds to itself as well. So you're going to take it and you are going to hoop that. Make sure it's just evenly hooped like we've been doing on all sides. You don't need to pull it at all. You just want to keep it in there, and just the pressure of putting that hoop in there is enough to get it nice and flat. Then you're going to tighten up your hoop. There we go. And just make sure it's just nice and taut. So mine is, and it's ready to go. The first thing we're going to do is that placement stitch. So this placement stitch is going to show us exactly where this first stitch and flip method is going to go. I can't wait to show you. So all we're going to do is, I said I have a teal thread, but you just make sure you have a neutral thread. I have all my fabrics already in order that we're going to use here and in the right cuts. And we're just going to get right to it. So I'm going to put this inside and we're going to stitch out step 1 together. Now I'm going to take it out of the hoop. You do not have to keep doing this, but I want to do this so that you can easily see what's happening each time. So you can do this in your hoop without removing it from the hoop, but I'm just going to bring it out and show you each time so that we're running through the process really, really clear. As you can see here, here's just like a little hat shape that we have. This is actually our stitch and flip line, and this is what we're going to line up and have our fabric running this way. So the next step is going to be step 2, and it's telling us we're going to do stitch and flip. So a lot happens in this one step. So stitch and flip requires multiple of things. So you're going to take the L fabric and the X fabric. So X and L, I have them both right here. And I'm going to put the L fabric right side up with the bottom edge along the bottom of that hat piece. Again, just like we did for applique, this is a plaid, so you can make sure that you have enough on all of that overage there. I'm just going to give myself a little more insurance, so I'm going to hang it slightly down past that bottom of that stitch and flip line. I still have enough. I have a 1/2 inch on all the sides, so that's wonderful. And then I'm going to take my X piece and I'm going to put it right sides together, lined up with the bottom. So again, to reiterate, I just have this basically like a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance hanging over the edge there. So it says here, place the fabrics right sides together, which we did. And it says align the fabrics with the bottom edge of the placement stitch with the excess fabric to the top, tape and secure. So it's actually saying it pull it a little bit up, but we have enough there. So I'm just going to kind of like make sure it's just hanging slightly back. What I don't want it is to be so tight and then I lose my seam allowance. So I'm just going to pull it slightly down of that line. And again, make sure that it's even on all the sides. You can tape it in place if you want to. And we're going to go ahead and stitch this out. So we're going to put this in here and we're going to see that stitch and flip line happen. All right. Great. Again, you don't have to take it out, but I do want to take it out to show you. So it did stitch out this line. You can see I have a nice seam allowance there. And the next thing it's asking us to do is an action step. So that's what the hands meet. And it says flip the top fabric down and finger press. So this is what finger pressing is going like this. But I have this seam roller here from Lori Holt, and I just love it. So this you need to do on a flat table. It would be very hard to do it possibly in your machine, but so this I like to use it here, and it gives me kind of a really nice flat seam. Then I'm going to put it back in the hoop and do a placement stitch. So let's get that in there and do step number 3, placement. So this is just showing the line is right here. There's going to be a good seam allowance with it. This is just showing us where to put our next step. So then we move on to step 4 already. Again, no thread changes happening. And we do another stitch and flip. We are like literally building our steps as we go. So we're going to take fabric NN and put it right sides together, place the fabric right sides together, and just covering that placement line. So you just want to make sure that it's covering down past it, and there's still enough going up and over it. This is your fabric NN, and we're going to stitch out step number 4. It's the stitch and flip line. You can already see a pattern forming. Now we're going to do the action step with the 2 hands, and we are going to flip it down. Look at that perfect seam, and press or finger press or seam roll that seam down. Wow, it's already coming together. Then we're going to do the next placement stitch. So just stay with me because these are going to be starting to build sideways, top and bottom and all the way around. So just stay with me. Step number 5, we're going to do the placement stitch for the next stitch and flip. And you don't need to take it out of your hoop. I am just doing this so you have a really good angle of seeing what is all happening here. You're always welcome to as well. So you can see that there's going to be some overage happening there. This is the seam allowance. You can see where that stitch and flip line is. And next you're taking fabric CC. So this is fabric CC, and you're going to place it right sides together. Now there is the length of the placement stitch here, and if you line up the top with it, you have quite a bit over, and that's not what we want to do. We actually want to center it over here and just let it hang again slightly over the line so that it's covering that line really nicely, and we have just a little bit peeking out on either top side and the bottom side as well as this edge. It's going to do that tack down stitch here, that stitch and flip line here, and make a really nice seam. But first, just make sure you have everything in line how you need it before you go ahead and press out step number 6. All right, it should look like this here now. Are you starting to feel like you're getting addicted to stitch and flip? It is so satisfying and quick. We're going to take this and flip the fabric over, and you can finger press it. I am going to continue to use my roller because it just gives a really sharp, crisp fold. All right, we're really building it out. I'm getting addicted. This is so much fun. All right, step number 7 is another placement stitch, and we're just going to go ahead and stitch that one out so we know where to place our next fabric and line it up. All right, can you see that placement line happening right there again? Yes, right there. Okay, this brings us to the next page already. So you will notice, just in case you are doing it on a printed copy, I printed mine off. I just like to have it here, but maybe you're using it on an iPad as well. You'll just notice that each step, so step A, it says step A on the top of every page. It also tells you when it's continued, and it's also one color. When you move to the next step, you're going to notice that like step B is in a different color heading, and then step C, step D. So you're going to just notice that every one is different, and this is just a visual cue so that you can follow along and just make sure that you are following the numbers of the correct step and the correct fabrics are going in the right spots. So just another easy cue. All right, so we're moving on to step number 8, which is a stitch and flip, and we want fabric M.E. So I'm pulling my fabric M.E. off, and again, you're going to center it vertically, and you want it to be covered just slightly over that line. So you're just having a little bit peak on the other side of the line, and it's ready to go. You can tape it in place or just really press it down, and we're going to stitch out step number 8. Okay, now that we have, here we go, that flip. Now that we have a vertical piece on each side, it's really starting to take shape and feel like a pieced quilt block with perfect seams each time. Make sure it's nicely folded over and everything is pressed, and we're going to go right on to step 9 where it is the placement. So if you need to washi tape this down, please do, because it's going to stitch across this way and we don't want it to bend or fold like this. So we're really going to press it down, and if you'd like to tape it down with fabric tape or a washi tape, you're welcome to do that. Okay, stitch out step 9 placement. Okay, so this is truly sewing in the hoop. Next, it says we're taking piece M. So we're taking piece M for step 10, and we are doing the stitch and flip method. So we're repeating it over and over, building in the exact placement. So the machine is doing all the work for us. All we need to do is make sure our fabric is centered vertically, horizontally, and covering up over that placement line. So make sure it's covered up over the placement line in the right way, because it's going to stitch and flip open like this. And you can go ahead and stitch out step 10 on your machine. So this is one reason that I like to take this out each time, because it's a little awkward to reach back in there to flip. So I'm happy to take it out. I also have this flat surface to work on, so I'm not stretching my stabilizer at all. And it's really just best practices to pull it out each time, and doesn't really take any extra time. All right, look at this, it's coming together. Next up is step 11, and we're going to do that placement stitch so we know where the next one's coming. You can really feel the rhythm of this coming together. It's actually quite soothing. You can be catching up on all your Riley Blake YouTube videos while you are stitching these, because once you get into a rhythm and you do one, you have a few to go here, 12, and it's really going to be an enjoyable stitch out each time. All right, the next stitch and flip is using the Z, using the Z number 12 step, and you're going to place it fabric right side down. So place it right side down, and again, you want to have it over enough covering that stitch and flip line that it just feels like you're secure. I'm going to make sure it's pressed down into the fabric itself. It's aligned up with the edges, and I can go ahead and stitch out step 12 next. You know what's next? Stitch and flip. Oh, we're getting into a good rhythm here. Okay, stitch, flip. It should actually say stitch, flip, and press, because that's what a really important step we don't want to forget, that pressing at the end. Wow, look at it, it's really coming together. We only have a few fabrics left to complete this block, 3, and maybe you might be wondering how they're all working together. Let's find out as we continue on. So step 13 is our next placement line. So we can go ahead and stitch out placement line 13, and we'll find out how that next fabric fits into this hoop. Wow, I'm really loving the accuracy this is providing to us. We are going to take fabric J and place it right sides together. Now remember, we want to center it this way, so vertically as well as horizontally, and make sure that it's covering completely that whole placement line. So I'm going to just make sure that it's covering all the way, and we're going to stitch out step number 14 for the stitch and flip of fabric J. Stitch and flip. Oh my goodness, adorable. It's really coming together. There we go. So there's no need to trim each block in between each of these steps. Just going ahead, just like this, if they've been trimmed and cut to size, they have enough overage so you have a good seam allowance without having too much. Placement stitch number 15 is up next. You know what to do. Let's go stitch out step number 15. Another long placement line for piece number FF. Stitch and flip FF. We are going to put it right sides together, making sure it's centered up and down, and as well as it's covering that entire line. This is a long piece, so if you want to tape it in place, you are encouraged to do so. And we are going to go ahead and stitch out step 16. We're getting really close, so let's see what happens. I really love how Lori Holt puts the colors of these fabrics together. You can see how the two colors balance each other out here on this side. It really still has a very scrappy feel, but it really just plays so well together. So we're just trusting the process as we keep building it. We still have one more fabric, and to find out where that goes, we'll have to put the hoop back in the machine to find out where step 17 is going to stitch our placement line. Here we go. Okay, so it's right at the bottom. That's where we are putting our last fabric. I have one more to go, but I'm going to flip the page because we've ran through all of the steps already on that page. We just have a couple steps left. So the last stitch and flip step is with fabric G. Here it is. It is right sides together and covering that entire placement line, making sure it's covered down over and centered from sideways as well, horizontally right to left. Place in place. You can washi tape it if you like, and we're going to stitch out step 18, but we're not quite done, so stay with me. Here we go. All right, I'm going to move this out of my way, and I'm going to do the last stitch and flip line and press here. All right, so this is what our Prim Steps A block looks like, but before we can really use it in our quilt, we have one final step. This is called a guide outline step, and it's going to help us in a number of ways. It's going to help it hold it to the stabilizer, but also to center it and know when to trim it and all of the different things. So let's just make sure that everything is pressed as flat as it can be, because it is going to go around the entire block here and stitch out a guide outline stitch. This is step 19, and if your machine can slow down at all, this might not be a bad time to try that. All right, here we go. And just like that, you created your very first Prim Steps block for the Prim Stitch Along. Good job, everyone. All right, let's follow this directions at the end after you take it out of the hoop to just make sure we have it prepped and ready to go for our last steps of the setting in the quilt. So the first one is that you're going to just make sure that everything is how you want it. You don't need to restitch anything. And then you're going to remove the block from your hoop. I'm just going to release my hoop and remove. Then you're going to place the block face down on that Jill Lily pad, and you can press it. If you had any stabilizer that you need to tear away, you can right now. I'm actually going to take a moment here and trim this at the back. So when the machine is cutting, sometimes it leaves tails, and I just want to kind of clean that up before we're done. Okay, excellent. So it looks like this. Let's take this over. This is my Jill Lily pressing pad, and you can press it from the front or the back. I'm actually going to press it from the front because I really want these to be crisp. When we were doing the embroidery, we were doing it face down, and you're welcome to do this face down as well. But there is no embroidery on this. There is seams, so I'm not going to use steam, and I'm just going to hold my iron here and just try and get as flat seams as I can so everything is nice and clean and crisp. Take your time, lift up and press your iron, and just make sure that everything is nice and flat before we go ahead and trim this block. So the last thing we're going to do is, it's a great idea that we are checking our machine embroidery blocks trim it guide here, because this is not a square. Here we are trimming steps A block. We're going to trim it to, depends on what size you have. Again, I'm doing this 6 by 10. So 4¼ by 7¼ So right now, we don't have a trim it ruler to 4¼ by 7¼ So we're going to use this guide outline stitch to help us trim it to that specification. If you're at 8 by 12, you're going to want a 5½ by 9½. And if you're the throw size, the 9 by 14, you're going to want the 6¾ by the 11¾ So I'm just going to move so I have a little bit of extra space. I have quite a big ruler here, and I'm just going to use it here. So it says 4¼ So when I place that here, it's actually exactly 4¼ from that guide outline stitch to that guide outline stitch. So that's good. Now what about this way? 7¼ So I'm going to come up here and 7¼ Oh, it's just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to move it just slightly, just like that. And I'm pretty much trimming exactly on my guide outline stitch. Of course, depends on how your iron was working, how everything is going to be. But you're going to go ahead and trim off all of that stabilizer and any excess. So trim that off, and this side. And I'm going to flip this over. Oh my goodness, it's getting so cute. And again, I'm going to check 4¼ by 7¼ Everything is lining up just as it should. And trim and trim. And just like that, our Prim Steps A block is complete. Look at that wonderful block. Now it's really, really, really important that you do label this with your Prim Steps A. This is why we were talking through the whole stitch along, that these are just good habits to get into when you're working through especially a big machine embroidery pattern. Even though some of the other blocks in this were obvious, that it was an angel block or something like that, the Prim Steps A, B, C are looking similar. They're all doing the exact same thing, but with different fabric. So this is a great opportunity to use that label, use your block label, and put it on the back of your design and just pin. When we go to do our setting together in the next video, then we will be able to find all of those and really work from there. Before I let you go, I just want to do a little show and tell of where and what these are all going to look like in the actual quilt. So I'm going to move this over to the side, and I have the actual quilt here with me. And I'm going to bring it out on the table and just show you. So the last video, we just did these sawtooth star corner stars, and you're going to notice that there's one here, one here. This is all along the side of our quilt. If you rotate the quilt, they're coming out along the top of the quilt here. Look how beautiful it looks. It really does give it that pieced finish, but it's all exactly perfect, and you can see how it really just sort of anchors the whole quilt. So this is my 6 by 10 size. This is a larger size. This is the 8 by 12 size, but they are all doing the same thing. We would love to see your blocks, your step blocks, and what you are creating for the Prim Stitch Along or any Riley Blake Designs machine embroidery. Please, please come and join us over at the Riley Blake Designs Machine Embroidery Facebook group. It's called RBD M.E, as well as an Instagram handle with that same name. My name is Jennifer Long. I manage the machine embroidery department at Riley Blake Designs, and I am so excited to continue stitching this out with you. And next video is the one that we've been waiting for. We're going to assemble the whole quilt together. So I can't wait to see your Prim stitch blocks next video. So come prepared, and we're going to assemble this quilt for the Prim Stitch Along. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.